Hi, it's Mike right here. It's noon on Tuesday, August the 1st, and it's time for the weekly workshop. I'm hopeful that we'll see some folks here with me today because, as you know, we're going through a trial period where I'm going to try and do some different things and see if I can't increase and enhance the participation with what goes on here. One of the things I've noticed in sessions past, oftentimes people will come on a little bit later. So please, if it's past noon, I'll bring people on and welcome them as they come on board. Um, Today we're going to talk about something that I like to call, or that I've started to call, your business presence. The fact of the matter is that if you're a business, you act like a business. We've talked about this issue many times before because there's no legal definition of what a business is, but there is a lot of evidentiary items that you can present if you're asked to prove that you actually have a business. And so what this is the idea that you have an overall image of what your business looks like, and that other people outside can look at that image, can see what's there, and make their own determination as to whether what you're operating is a business or something else, and what kind of business it is, and so forth. So the reason this came up and the reason this is important is because I recently helped guide a client of an associate of mine through the audit process with the Indiana Department of Workforce Development. You may or may not remember that my professional background is from auditing, and auditing is a skill that has to do with learning how to look at something and decide what's really there to see. Auditing generally involves things like, if this is true, then this over here should be true. And then we want to go over and take a look at whatever this is over here so that then we can find out what's going on and verify what's going on. So that's why the presence idea is important. I attended a seminar this past week with the IRS that was talking about the issue of the employee retention credit. And this is a very interesting topic and one that's very important at the present time for the reason that so many companies are trying to encourage small businesses to take advantage of the employee retention credit and get money back from the government. The fact of the matter is that many of those advertisements are from scammers. And if they even do you an employee retention credit process, what they want to do is be paid up front, even with the knowledge that what they're doing for you probably won't be approved, or if it is approved, you'll be subject to audit later on by the IRS. And the IRS is paying a great deal of attention to that. My purpose for saying this isn't to scare you, although it does, it should make you pause if you are using the employee retention credit. What it's intended to talk about is one of the attorneys for the IRS talking about doing these audits talked about the fact that what they look at is the total presence of the business. When you have an application for employee retention credit for maybe 500 employees, and then when they look at the way the business looks like elsewhere, and it seems hard to believe that there might be 500 employees there, it gives them pause and they want to know more about that. Same thing's true here. So that's what I'm talking about today. It's the way your business looks to people outside your business. And it's an important topic, something you want to pay attention to. So what we're going to talk about in more detail a little later on, we'll be talking about emails, how you handle emails, what your web presence looks like. Is it a website or is it just a Facebook page? And you'll notice I use the word just, which will probably give you a clue as to how I think about it. We also will talk about something that I've spent weekly workshop sessions on before, and that's the matter of documentation. Things like bylaws, written resolutions, copies of minutes, things to demonstrate that just like every other business, your business is doing what businesses do. And I'm sorry, I'm smiling. I just remembered there's a Simpsons episode about the Spider Pig, and playing off the Spider-Man song, it says, Spider Pig, doing whatever Spider Pigs do. And what we're talking about is businesses do what businesses do. So documentation is important. We also will talk about things like your registrations with the government. We'll talk about things like registered trademarks and whether you have them and maintain them. And we'll, one that I just thought of when I was putting together this, and I scribbled it down, which is why I couldn't read it. Knowing your enemies. Oftentimes you can tell a lot about your business by those that are your opponents. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. Let me get started, though, on this topic with the one that I got an earful about from my IT guy on Monday, and that's emails. The simple answer to this, the thing you want to walk away from, if you don't walk away from anything else in this conversation, is don't use Gmail as your email domain. Now, using Gmail through their professional, I forget what they call it now, workspace, I think is the current name for it, but they've had a variety of names for this professional level of involvement. The email that I use, taxright.net, does go through Gmail. That's who my email provider is. But you'll notice my email ends in taxright.net. That's my domain. If you're using Gmail as the domain for your email, you're telling everybody out there that you're an amateur. You're telling everybody out there that you're just somebody that's in it as a hobby or something that you don't take as seriously as you should. That's also true if you're using Outlook as your email domain, because Outlook is simply Microsoft's answer to the Gmail issue. God forbid you're using something like hotmail.com, because that's been bad even before we got into all this other stuff. This is something that shows how you consider yourself. And that leads obviously over into the idea of a domain. Domains are not expensive to buy. Most domain providers can get you connected with an email account through your own domain with no problem. Minimal hassle. I talked to one of the people at the meeting where my IT guy was going on and on about this, brought up the fact that when she first started to use the email domain that they bought, she had to log into this place and then go log into that place before she could finally even read her email. Now, I don't know exactly what she was talking about, but I do know that oftentimes the domain sponsors will use a joint venture with an email provider and make you log into that email provider to utilize the email on that domain. But my feeling is, because of my own experience, that once you get that email provider logged into your account and that relationship is set up, you don't have to continue to go through that as a two-step process. It's also possible, and I want you to think about this for a minute, that she may have been working with a secure email system. Many people, particularly those that have to use HIPAA requirements, are obligated to use an encrypted email system. Now, the idea here is that you type something on your computer, the computer encrypts it, before it sends it out to the encrypted email system. Once it arrives at its recipient, the encrypted email system unencrypts it and lets the recipient see it. The alternative is that you have passwords built into all of your emails, which becomes cumbersome, particularly if you're trying to deal with somebody that doesn't know the password. I have several of my clients are therapists, and they're utilizing encrypted email systems. So I get an email from them, and it says, you have an email from so-and-so. So then I have to answer that email by going through a password process, and then I get to see the email. And if I want to reply, the process is repeated. I'm not recommending that you do that. In fact, for most people, the minimal encryption that is used by Gmail or by Outlook or by the other email providers is probably sufficient. However, my topic here is not how to get encrypted email. My topic here is to talk about how your email looks to other people. Maybe I should make a note. Maybe we'll do an encrypted email topic as another weekly workshop. But for today, I just want to let you know you don't want to use Gmail or Outlook as the email domain. You ought to have a website, even if that website is nothing more than a landing page that lets people know that you're real. However, remember, we're looking at what your business's presence should look like. So if you go to a website and the only thing there is give me your email address and I'll send you a newsletter, that may be handy to get people on your email list, but it doesn't really say much more about your business.